Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Okay, guys, hello. My name's Connor if you're new. Hope you're doing well. I have not done Italy yet somehow. I've done a few other countries, more than a few. Well, more than like 5 or 6, I think, of the First World War, Great War Special series from the Great War channel. And we're doing Italy now, all right? Surprised I didn't do this earlier. Preemptive like, let's go. Let's learn.
Now that
Hey,
Italy
Andy.
has joined the war, we'll be seeing a lot of action and intrigue on the Italian front. But some of you have asked what Italy was doing leading up to her entry in the war. So that's what I'm going
Balkans. No. Yes.
to talk about right now.
Umberto?
I'm Indy Nidell. Welcome to a Great War special episode about Italy and the events leading up to the Italian declaration of war. Italian history was a fairly new thing. In fact, Italy had only been unified as a single nation in 1861. Now, the geographic concept of Italy, from the Alps to the southern tip of the peninsula, was ancient, but Italy hadn't been unified since the fall of Rome over 1,500 years earlier. But 3 wars of unification.
Sorry, I don't want to lose track of what I was listening to there, but I just got to point out.
The Alps to the southern tip of the peninsula was ancient, but Italy.
Look at how freaking close Sicily is to Italy. They're pretty much touching.
But Italy hadn't been unified since the fall of Rome over 1,500 years earlier. But 3 wars of unification, mostly against Austria-Hungary and with occasional French intervention, did the trick, and Italian patriots, led by Giuseppe Garibaldi, had their nation. However, there was still land that was seen as Italian that was not part of that union, notably some of the southern Alps and the port of Trieste that belonged to Austria-Hungary. And so the word that ultimately guided Italy's entry into the war was irredentism. Redemption of Italian territory. Now, if we take a look at Italy in 1914, its population was around 35 million, making it the 6th largest European nation. But Italy was poor and mostly agricultural, and compared to the other large nations of Europe, was undeveloped. The per capita income, for example, was only half that of France's, and illiteracy was high. On top of this, Italy produced little steel, and was dependent on British coal, and was not even independent in terms of food supplies, relying on imported wheat to survive.
What is this? If anyone happens... Sometimes the questions I ask, you guys amaze me with somehow knowing the answer sometimes. So I'm just going to throw this out there. I wouldn't otherwise. What is this? What? If no one knows it, that's fine, but sometimes you guys do.
Also, even though Italy may be unified as a nation, there was no real sense of nationhood among large parts of the population, or even ethnic unity. In terms of just language, a Venetian and a Sicilian could not understand each other. The Italian language was the dialect of Florence and was widely spoken only among the elite. The unification had also not brought forth the much-hoped-for social revolution, and power was concentrated among landowners and
Hold on, guys. Where is Florence and is that like a little north of Rome? Come on, internet. You can do it. Florence, Italy, capital. My internet has been so slow. How are you guys doing, huh? We can probably have a conversation, but okay. Oh my God, is this 1995 Windows? Jesus. Okay. So it is sort of where I thought it was. Internet. Where's Rome? There it is. Okay. It is kind of where I thought it was. All right. That was painful with the internet, but I'm glad I searched it. Crap. Ruled Britannia.
Industrialists, which fostered wheat. The unification had also not brought forth the much-hoped-for social revolution, and power was concentrated among landowners and industrialists, which fostered resentment and political turmoil. Indeed, a quote from post-unification went like this: "Now we have made Italy, we still have to make the Italians." In terms of political structure, Italy was a constitutional monarchy, with Victor Emmanuel III sitting on the throne, as he would until after the Second World War. This era was politically dominated, though, by Prime Minister Giovanni Giolitti. In fact, the period from 1901 to 1914 is called the Giolitti era. He was a master of transformismo, which was the art of
1941 to 1908. Okay, he lived that long, but still, 1941 to 1918 was considered the Giolitti era. I thought he served as prime minister for that long, which would have been insane. Wow, he lived pretty long, to 60, 70, 86?
It's called the Giolitti era. He was a master of transformismo, which was the art of isolating the extreme right and extreme left wings in politics and making a centrist coalition. He was a liberal who passed a series of progressive social reforms that improved the general standard of living, but he was no longer prime minister when the war broke out. He'd been replaced in...
Can I say something about liberals? Is that I see like the left, I'm going to say the left and the right and then liberals, okay? So I'm going to leave like center right, center left, centrist, independents out of this, okay? So right, left, and then liberal. It seems like the right and left are more hardcore in their beliefs and don't want to sway much. And then liberals are the one in politics who, they do have beliefs, as anyone does, but they're much, much, much more willing to like do some stuff to like just try and make a government that can be in power. Does that make sense?
Early
feel free to disagree.
No longer prime minister when the war broke out. He'd been replaced in early 1914 by conservative Antonio Salandra. Now, Giolitti had been hated by a lot of the extremists, especially those who were for irredentism. They considered him petit bourgeois and thought his ideas were small and lacking substance. I should point out that there were a lot of extremists in Italy, and the radical movements there were more violent than most others throughout Europe. Even in the arts, if you look at futurists like sculptor Umberto Boccioni or the poet Gabriele D'Annunzio, you see people that were national heroes extolling the virtues of everything modern: cars, guns, speed, flight, and ultra-nationalist ideas of war like this. We want to glorify war, the only hygiene for the world, militarism, patriotism, beautiful ideas to die for. Italy had actually been trying itself out on the world stage for years before World War I, notably in the Italian-Turkish War in 1911 and 1912, which did secure Libya for Italy, but was economically ruinous and required a huge commitment in men. Now, back in 1882, Italy had entered the Triple Alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary. This was a...
Interesting, it happened that early on, huh? Oh, no, wait, Italy... Oh, hold on. I take that back. Italy was not allied with Austria-Hungary and Germany in World War I. That was World War II. It was allied with Germany. Okay, sorry, I take that back. Never mind.
And required a huge commitment in men. Now, back in 1882, Italy had entered the Triple Alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary. This was a defensive pact, which said that if any of the three was attacked by a single nation, the other two would not intervene. But if attacked by two or more, then they would defend each other. It was originally due to expire July 8, 1914.
Interesting.
It was renewed.
At first, I was about to say, well, what kind of treaty is that? But second, it could be kind of smart in that you want to create a treaty that, I mean, everyone's looking after their own self-interest, right? But you want to create a treaty that if a smaller war, you're not obliged to get in. But if there is another power going against you and it's sort of inevitable that there's a bigger war, then you can go in. Interesting. Very interesting.
In 1912, was originally due to expire July 8, 1914, but was renewed in 1912 with the addition of Article 7. This article, quote, guaranteed both signatories, in this case Italy and Austria-Hungary, guaranteed both signatories compensation should either make a permanent or temporary gain of territory in the Balkans.
Understood.
End quote. So this is really important. In July 1914, a couple of weeks after Franz Ferdinand's assassination, Italy's foreign minister warned Austria that if Austria went to war against Serbia, Italy demanded compensation under Article 7. Austria said that they had no territorial ambitions, but then issued the ultimatum to Serbia without informing Italy. And the Italian government felt that Austria was breaking the terms of the article and decided on strict neutrality, and thus Italy was exempt from its obligations. And
how have I not heard that before? I mean, you can only say Italy is in the right here from the agreements. Just because a conflict arises or you now want to keep all of the spoils for yourself doesn't mean you can go against the treaty that was signed. Interesting. I never heard of that ever.
And the Italian government felt that Austria was breaking the terms of the article and decided on strict neutrality, and thus Italy was exempt from its obligations. And that was it. No, wait,
Psych.
That wasn't it. The declaration of neutrality threw the public into turmoil. There were strikes and demonstrations,
Why?
and as the months went on, the question began to be not would Italy join the war, but rather on whose side? There were, as I said, a lot of hotheads who really wanted a war in general, but specifically those who really wanted that Austrian land.
Okay, hold on. I was about to say, why the hell are they like this? But Italy is, again, as in its present day form, in its country form, was formed just, 5-6 decades in the prior century, in the 1800s. And you're probably you have the idea of the Roman Empire in mind. You've unified, you're ready to do stuff and secure your legacy or whatever. And so that actually does make it less strange to me why the public would be mad. It's usually that's like something, especially in America, it's like the public could be, all right, great, no, but you actually want it to happen in some way or another because you're so kind of patriotic and ready to create a new Italy. Okay, fascinating.
The war side. There were, as I said, a lot of hotheads who really wanted a war in general, but specifically those who really wanted that Austrian land. The cabinet was pretty anti-Austrian, and Salandra, the new prime minister, supported entering the war on the side of the Entente. So, as you know, if you watch our regular weekly episodes, the winter of 1914-1915 was not a good time for Austria-Hungary. Humiliated in battle by Serbia, losing a huge symbol of pride, the fortress of Przemysl, to the Russians, and even facing a Russian invasion, the situation had been pretty desperate. So if you were Italy and you were going to join the war, which side do you think you'd join? Germany and Austria? Well, what would that get you? Austria apparently wasn't going to honor its commitment to sharing spoils.
Oh my God. I don't remember the last time I watched a history or any video that taught me as much clarifying information as this one.
What would that get you? Austria apparently wasn't going to honor its commitment to sharing spoils. Would Germany? But if you joined the Entente, with the Austrian Empire seemingly on its knees, you could take back your territory, control the Adriatic Sea, and become a power in the Balkans.
Smart. Honestly, smart.
Seemed pretty easy at the time. And remember, Austria was not popular in Italy, since what kind of an ally had land with 700,000 Italian-speaking people living on it? Also, and pretty important, Italy depended on France and Britain for food and energy. What would happen to that if she joined the Central Powers? Let's look at some moments.
So it's a lose-lose situation if you join Austria and Germany. Lose on one side in that you with your current arguments with Austria-Hungary over the treaty you signed and territory gained through one side attacking another, attacking places in the Balkans. You could not get that, and you'll also lose. Okay, makes sense.
From the start of
you'll
the war,
also lose, the food and whatnot.
To that, if she joined the Central Powers. Let's look at some moments from the start of the war, and you can see the lay of the land a bit better. August 11th, Italy declares that it will maintain scrupulous neutrality towards Germany and Austria-Hungary. But if there is a change in equilibrium in the Balkans, Mediterranean, or Adriatic, it will join France, Britain, and Russia. August 12th, French President Raymond Poincaré tells the Italian ambassador that after the war, when Europe is reconstituted, Italy will have the role she deserves. The Russian ambassador says Italy will only get land if she earns it with arms. August 21st, Luigi Cadorna, Italian Army Chief of Staff, writes a memorandum on eventual conflict with Austria-Hungary. And as the winter went on, and Italy laid out enormous demands for territory from Austria to remain neutral, Austrian Foreign Minister Baron Istvan Burian says, quote, "When I have an empty pistol at my chest, I don't hurry up to take out my wallet, but wait until the pistol is loaded before making up my mind."
I just wouldn't think you'd have the luxury of being able to wait.
End quote. In March, Italy presented British Foreign Secretary Edward Grey with 16 requests if Italy should join the Entente. Grey says they agree in general, but need to work on the details. Also in March, Salandra tells the king that there will be a revolution if Italy does not join the war. April 11th, violent intervention.
This is crazy. This is insane. So Italy is on three, the Italian government at the time, whoever's in charge, is on three separate sides at them. One in Austria, one in the French and British, and then one in the Italian citizens themselves. The Italian citizens just wanting to join the war, period, that can end up in Italian success, more land, and then obviously either side wanting them to join in. Crazy. Fascinating.
Solution if Italy does not join the war. April 11th, violent interventionist demonstrations during which a certain pro-war Benito Mussolini is arrested.
Who's that
April
guy?
26th, the Treaty of London is signed by Italy, Britain, France, and Russia. Under the treaty, Italy gets South Tyrol, Trieste, Albania as a protectorate, the Adriatic Islands, a piece of Turkey when the Ottomans are defeated,
That's a
colonial additions in Africa,
That's a
50
lot.
million pounds,
Jesus
and
Christ.
no pope to be present at the
Take the deal. That is awesome deal.
eventual peace conference. In return, Italy will not conclude a separate peace after joining the war.
What does that mean? A separate peace? Are you saying that if the Austrians and Germans win, I mean, how would you be able to enforce? Okay.
Italy.
Sorry, guys. I had to come back and finish this up.
I thought the public were for the war.
For Salandra to sell the war to the general public, who largely oppose war. But sell it he does. And on May 23rd, Italy declares war on Austria-Hungary. What really was the final tipping factor was this. The interventionists, the futurists, the military, the romantic nationalists, the irredentionists, those who wanted the war on both the left and the right, had a single goal, while neutralists, like the Catholic Church and the socialists, were too opposed to each other to unite. And so Italy went to war. Now,
Interesting. Sorry if I just missed that and it was clarified earlier and I just didn't understand it.
this episode could have been 5 times as long, but this was a brief
wish.
look
That was
at the
awesome.
slippery slope that led Italy to join the war and see her bravest men die by the hundreds of thousands. A lot of the people and events I mentioned today
Not
are
so
really
awesome.
fascinating, and I encourage you to take some time to look them up yourself to really see how these events unfolded in better detail. I and the whole team personally want to thank Madeline Johnson for helping us out with the research for this episode and making some sense of the complicated situation in Italy. Thanks, Madeline. If you're new to our show and maybe a bit overwhelmed by all the events of the summer of 1914 where tensions were running high all over Europe and war was suddenly inevitable and there was a single gunshot, you can check out our 3-part Prelude to War special series right here.
Great episode as always. Great video. Again, I even with the kind of bumps and not everyone agreeing, which is going to happen when you're creating this country and trying to unify a goal in such a important time in history with a relatively new country. obviously you go back all the way. Italian history can go back. You know, you have Genoa and Venice, and it's not like after the fall of the Roman Empire, the regions in Italy were not important. I'd say the opposite. But given that you've been so separated for so long, kind of coming together this relatively quickly is impressive, I think. And yeah, I just wanted to point that out, just because they have a very common history over 1,000 years ago doesn't mean that they're just going to come together easily. And it seems that they did, despite a few bumps and bruises. Great episode as always. Love y'all. Hope you guys are all doing well. Would appreciate any comments as always. And hopefully I'll see you next video. Bye, guys.